Hello, this is Mark Shedd with Productivity 501, and I wanted to show you how I connect to the internet when I'm out in rural areas. I recently got a card here. It's a Express PCN or a Express card, and it's from Sprint. I'll show you that right there. What this lets me do is use over a cell phone network. So I can connect over a cell phone network, and I've been happily pleased with how fast it is, at least in some of the areas I'm in where I'm near cell phone towers, but kind of out in the middle of nowhere in the country. So first of all, let me fire up Safari here, and let's take a look at what speed I'm getting with the cable modem. Okay, so I'm going to speedtest.net, and fire up here. And I'll use the server in Springfield, Missouri. So this is going to run a test here. So I'm getting about 3 megabits per second download speed. And in a minute here it will run the upload test. Okay, so here's the upload test running. And keep in mind, this is with the cable modem connection. Once we get through with this, we'll go ahead and put in the broadband card. Okay, so we had 2,848 kilobits per second download speed, 521 kilobits per second upload speed, which is pretty good, pretty typical for cable connections, particularly in this part of the country. Another thing is we have a ping time of 114 milliseconds, which is also reasonable. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put in the Sprint card, and I'm going to turn off my wireless access, or my Wi-Fi connection. And right here, I'm going to connect using the Sprint card now. Okay, so I've got full signal here. We're actually located just down the hill from a cell phone tower, so we have good signal here. So let's go back and run the speed test again. And we'll run it from the same place. Okay, now if you notice, my ping time was actually even a little bit faster than I was getting with the cable modem connection. Typically, that's not the case. Typically, the cable modem connection is just a little bit faster than it was on that particular test. So my speed here was 1,290 kilobits per second, and the upload speed was 525 kilobits per second. So the upload speed is about the same as what I'm getting with the cable modem. Download speeds a little less than half. But what I found is for most purposes, most web browsing needs, this works very well. It works well for voice over IP. There's a slightly longer delay most of the time, but not enough to be too bad unless the person's standing in the other room and you can hear them talking around the phone. But this is what I use for working out on like our family farm and stuff where the only other option is satellite. Seems to work pretty well. I would definitely suggest looking into using EVDO. Now, one issue that's happened recently is Sprint used to have unlimited usage for their EVDO cards. Verizon and AT&T all had 5 gig per month caps on it. There's a rumor floating around that that Sprint was going to put a 5 gig connection on theirs. I wrote to the CEO and somebody called me back, the CEO of Sprint. Somebody called me back and said, yes, they are going to do that, but they're going to base it on a 3-month average. But they weren't clear exactly what that meant. And in fact, he went and did some more research, tried to call me and called me back and still wasn't sure. So it can mean one of a couple things. One may be that if you go over 15 gigs in a 3-month period that they boot you off. So any 3-month kind of rolling period you get over 15 gigs, they boot you off. Or it could mean that if you go over the 5 gig limit 3 times in a row, 3 months in a row, then they look at booting you off. So the that last situation would probably be preferable, because then if you have 1 month where you do 10 gigs for some reason, and the next 2 months you do 4 gigs each of those months, you'd be fine. Or in the first scenario where they average the 3 months and boot you off if you're over 15 gigs, it wouldn't work out as well for you. So they weren't clear on how that would work, and I think they're going to send out a letter sometime in July. They also weren't clear on what would happen when you do go over. For example, my understanding with AT&T is if you go over the limit, they will actually call you and say, hey, you're over the limit. Is there anything you can do to reduce your usage? And if you bring it back down, you're fine. If you keep going over again and again, they're going to assume you're doing something that they don't intend to support with a service like file sharing or something like that, and they will go ahead and kick you off. The representative I talked to with Sprint wasn't really clear on how that would work, whether it was an automatic thing that they just kick you off or whether somebody was going to call you up. The other thing that I wasn't clear in talking to them was what would happen if you had multiple devices. For example, I have a BlackBerry with unlimited tethered data plan, so I can hook it into my computer and do the same thing I just showed you. The only downside is with Bluetooth, there's about the fastest I can get is 400 kilobits per second download speed. If I use a wired connection into Windows Vista, I can get speeds close to what I was showing you right here, not quite as fast. But so I've got unlimited with that, which I'm assuming will be capped at 5 gigs. Unlimited with a broadband, which unlimited now means capped at 5 gigs. I wasn't sure if they'd look at that and say, okay, he's got one connection that he's paying for that he's used barely anything on. He's got another connection that he's paying for that he's gone over the limit. This is fine. We're still making money on this person. It sounded in talking to him that they weren't going to do that, or at least they weren't going to commit to doing that. So if you're looking for a broadband card, really find out what you're getting into, because there may be some little gotchas depending on your use that you may want to be aware of. Right now, as far as I know, the only company that offers unlimited data card usage is Altel. But I think Verizon is bidding to buy them, so that might not be the case for very long. So hopefully this is useful for people that are looking at wanting to get internet access in places where they may not have a lot of other options. I know a lot of people have looked into satellite. The big drawback of satellite is there's a latency involved, and you can't use it for voice over IP or video chat type connections. And it seems a little bit slower. If you're just downloading large files, it tends to work pretty well, because once the file gets going, it comes down pretty quickly. So this is Mark Shedd with Productivity 501.